What do you do when it feels like the world around you is suffocating you? Your peace and identity and joy is robbed. Well, in this quick video, I'm actually going to share my story and everything that I've gone through in the last few months and how I've come to this conclusion. Enjoy. I wanted to start off by just sharing the last 6 months or so of my life, okay? And how I've came to the conclusions that I have. April 8th, I have a knee injury. It's my third knee injury on that knee. And long story short, I dislocated my kneecap for the third time, and I tore the ligament that holds my kneecap to my femur. And it took about a month before I could get surgery. I had knee surgery. I'm still recovering from that, but I'm a lot better. In that time, we found out my wife is pregnant, so that was really neat. We were kind of terrified of the financial aspect that the knee surgery was going to entail. Simultaneously, around that time, about a month or so, right before I had my knee surgery, my son, we took him to the ER. We thought he had appendicitis. Turns out it was only gas lock, but didn't realize there's not that much difference between a severe gas lock and appendicitis, because he, for 3 days, was riveting on the floor in pain, and that was extremely scary. So, we're just hoping maybe it was a stomach bug or flu, and so on the third day we took him in, and then we got him some Pepto after that, apparently. So we had that ER bill, and then had the surgery. And then after the surgery, we found out that we had lost the baby that my wife was pregnant with. My wife ended up having 2 trips to the ER because of that. Then somewhere a little bit after that, about 2 weeks after that, there was this girl in Uganda, an orphan, who was connected to a local pastor that I know down there, and she had a severe foot infection, and I saw the picture of it, and I just really felt that we were supposed to give half the money needed to pay for her surgery. And keep in mind, we didn't have a lot because we just had experienced a lot of financial things that came up, and so we decided to do that. And then she dies on the operating table. And that was really hard, because I really felt that God led my wife and I to give so that this girl could have healing and wholeness. Move forward, about 2 weeks after that, my wife gets in a car wreck, and she was okay, thank God. The car wasn't, and so that car went to the body shop. We didn't have that car for about a month. We just got it back finally. But 2 days after the car wreck, our Honda Pilot, our other car, transmission starts going out. So that's not drivable. So we literally have no car. Luckily, we have good insurance, so we were able to rent a car through the insurance. So now we're down to 1 vehicle. But all that being said, the financial stress and pressure of all those incidences, the emotional pain and toil, really started taking a toll. And there were several things that really came up through this. One, that I had an identity of this idea, Evan Herman, that I wanted to be. And I've had it for a very long time. It's, Evan Herman that's in great shape, that has great finances, that, is an entrepreneur and philanthropist. And here's what I realized. This identity that I built of myself through my friend Craig Westhoff showed me that is idolatry and self-hatred. Because I created this image of who I wanted to be and not who God created me to be. So not saying that we can't have dreams or aspirations of ourselves, but what I realized is I attached my self-worth and my identity to this image that I created about my picture-perfect self. And that's why it became idolatry and self-hatred. So moving forward, what I realized is the fit Evan Herman that I have in my mind, when I hurt my knee, this idea of the fit Evan Herman, that identity was crushed. I was doing great at losing weight and then gained it back. This idea of a philanthropist was crushed when this girl passed away after we donated. This idea of being financially sound and okay when we had all these different financial things hit, my knee, my son, my wife twice in the ER when we lost the baby, and then the car wreck, and then the loss of the other car. That's 6 major financial hits in 5 months. That's literally one big financial hit a month. And this idea for me financially is that, regardless of whatever financial issues that hit me, that I would be okay to take care of them. That would be financially okay. And that idea of this wealthy individual who's perfectly okay regardless of whatever life circumstances financially happens to me was crushed. And what I realized is through all this, circumstantially, my peace was tied to my circumstances. That my peace, I would have peace if my circumstances were good and okay. Specifically right now with all that happening in the area of finances. And what I realized is that through some friends that I was talking with, or a friend who's much wiser and older, she said something to me. And I wanted to share with you what she said. Peace is not circumstantial. Real peace is in spite of circumstances. And that kind of stuck with me. Didn't really dwell on it, marinate on it. And then today, I pulled out my Bible, which I haven't done in a very long time. Typically, I've just been reading audio Bible and listening to it. But today, I decided to sit and steep in God's Word, not feeling rushed. And I read Romans 8:6. It says, the mind governed by the flesh is death, but the mind governed by the Spirit of life is peace. I just started thinking about that, dwelling on it. And then it made me think of the time that Jesus was in the boat with the disciples, where Jesus said, all right, let's get away from the crowd. Let's go to the other side of the lake, get in the boat. So they're traveling the boat. Jesus is asleep in the stern, and a big storm comes up, and water's coming in the boat. The disciples are freaked, and here Jesus is sleeping in the boat. And then they go down to Jesus and they say, don't you care that we're about to die? He gets up, rebukes the storm, and then rebukes them and says, O ye of little faith. And I was thinking about that story. Several things stuck out to me. One, they had the physical presence of Jesus in their boat with them. But yet they didn't realize the power and authority that Jesus himself had. But he specifically said, O ye of little faith. See, their peace was in their own well-being based off of their circumstances. And what Jesus was saying, regardless of your circumstances, you should have peace. And peace comes through faith, because he said, O ye of little faith. Don't you know that I'm here? O ye of little faith. And then that kind of made me think of the exact opposite of them. The other story where we have Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, where King Nebuchadnezzar built a statue and basically told everyone to worship the statue, and if you don't, you're going to get thrown into the fiery furnace. And then they didn't bow down. Some tattletales brought it up to Nebuchadnezzar, said, hey, they did not bow down. And then, this is my favorite part of that passage. So, they get taken, Meshach, Shadrach, and Abednego get taken to Nebuchadnezzar, and then they say this in Daniel 3:16 through 18. We do not need to defend ourselves before you on this matter. That's gutsy. If we are thrown into the blazing furnace, the God we serve is able to deliver us from it, and he will deliver us from your majesty's hand. But even if he does not, we want you to know, your majesty, that we will not serve your gods or worship the image of gold that you have set up. And then the story goes, Nebuchadnezzar got so angry that he said, make the furnace 7 times hotter. And the people that threw the 3 of them in there actually died just getting close to the fire. And then Nebuchadnezzar was amazed because he's like, didn't we throw 3 of them in there? There's 4 of them, and the 4th one looks like a son of a god. And they were unbound, walking around after they had been tied, and they looked unharmed. They come out. The king was so amazed, and he issued a decree saying, after not being burned up and saw that their God delivered them, he said, people of any nation or language who says anything against the God of Meshach, Shadrach, and Abednego will be cut into pieces and their house burnt and turned into rubble. For no other God can save in this way. So now I just want to read to you quickly what God showed me through these 2 different stories. Meshach, Shadrach, and Abednego had faith that God would save them. And even if they were not saved, they still had faith in God. The difference in these 2 stories is that in the Old Testament, Meshach, Shadrach, and Abednego, their peace was not derived from their own well-being or their circumstances. And both of the stories had the physical presence of Jesus. Except these 3 did not see Jesus, Meshach, Shadrach, and Abednego, until after they were thrown into the fire, where the disciples had the physical manifestation of Jesus before the storm. And so this is what I realized, is that in my life, peace has been a byproduct of my circumstances, which is not the way it's supposed to be, and which is exactly why it felt like the world was closing in on me. So moving forward, I've realized that peace comes through faith and belief, and knowing that God is willing and able to protect us from life's storms and fires. But even if he is not willing to take us out of the storm or the fire, we can be assured that Jesus will be walking with us through it. My identity has been rocked over the last 6 months. My peace has been just stripped away because I put it in my circumstances. And we know that our peace comes through God and it comes through Jesus here. But getting it in here is a different story. And so I wanted to encourage all you that are making it through this video that peace comes through our faith, that regardless of our circumstances, Jesus is able and willing to help us get out of the storm. But if he's not willing to get us out of the storm, he is still there walking through it with us. Because sometimes storms will shape our identity and character. So I say all that to say, may the peace of God and the peace of Jesus reign in your life, because the presence of Jesus through the Holy Spirit is always with us. Thank you so much. Take care.